this video, I just want to talk about the border stitch. And I have V's on the front and I have V's on the back. If you can see a little row of V's there. Yeah. And this is really easy and it's really useful when you want to do a double border, because you've got a really nice sort of like a double stitch to go into. So I've been doing it this way for years. I just use two V's, a V on the back and a V on the front. So I go through, as I'm coming up to do my double border on the back, I'm just going to pick up both parts of that V, yeah, as I'm coming up the back. And I'm going to do exactly the same for my front border. As I'm coming up my front border, I'm just going to pick up both, the whole of the V, yeah? The whole of the V. Right, so that's it. It's really simple. And here's how I do it. I do not attach the yarn through the work. I'm just going to make sure that I put my yarn on my hook before. I start with my yarn on my hook, however you attach your yarn to your hook. Yeah, there we go. I've attached my yarn to my hook. And now all I do is I go straight through the center of the V from the previous row, which I've made quite loose, and I'll show you how to do that. So it makes it really easy. So I've got my yarn and I'm just going to go, I hold my finger around the back and I stab straight through the middle. Now to make sure that I'm going through the middle, I push this way. I push to the outside slightly so that I know that I'm going to pop the stitch through the middle. I'm going to open it up around the back. So as I go in, I'm just going to jiggle it a little bit out towards that way. I just have this pop, I just go through the center while I'm pushing slightly to the outside. Yeah. So I know now that I've gone through the center of the stitch. I can feel it, and also I can check. You can see there I've gone through the center of the stitch. And then what I do is I've got my working yarn here, and all I'm going to do is bring this little tail with all the other tails, and all I'm going to do is just pull my yarn through the center of that V. Yeah, I've pulled it through the center of the V, and now I'm just going to give it a little wiggle. Yeah. And that's what makes it loose for the next row. And it also makes it really easy when you're coming to put your border stitch on. So that's the trick, to give it a little wiggle. You don't want it really loose, but you do not want it tight, because then you're going to struggle with the border and your next row. And then what I'm going to do is I've got these two loops. I am just going to yarn over and pull through. And you can see now, that's it. I have created the V for my next row. And on the back, you can see I've got all these V's. Yeah. So I've just gone through the center of the stitch on both sides. And now this, I'm just ready to start my first stitch of my pattern. Whatever pattern you're doing, you just start your first stitch. And that's how I get the V on the front and the V on the back. So let's just do one more join for good measure. Here is the V. Next row, I'm changing color. So I'm just going to add my yarn to my hook first, whatever way you do that. Straight through the middle, slightly pushing towards the right, like that. Okay, so I push towards the right. I know, I can feel with my finger that I've gone straight through the stitch. Yeah, and that I've split the stitch neatly around the back. Okay. If you don't do it, it doesn't matter. You can still, it still works, but I just prefer to have it neat as V's at the back. I take my working yarn now, pull my little tail to sit with all the other tails. So another good way to check that you've gone through the middle of the stitch is to just flip your work here to the side. And can you see here, I've gone through. That's it. I've gone through the front part of the V and I've caught the back part of the V there, those two stitches. Yeah. So I know that I'm through the center. can always check when you flip it like that backwards. I can see that I've got the stitch on either side. Once you practice it, it's really easy. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pull through the yarn, pull it up and give it a wiggle. It's the wiggle that makes the difference. The wiggle makes it easier on your next row, and the wiggle makes it easier when you're putting your border stitch through. So honestly, I've done it so tight once that I could hardly do the border. So I've paid, I've learned from my mistake. So once I've got my 2 loops like that, I just yarn over, pull through, and there you go, just like magic. You've got your V for your next row, and you've also got this neat V on the back, the whole row of V's. And now I'm just going to start, whatever your first stitch, whatever pattern you're doing, I'm just going to go straight into that first stitch. Yeah. So now we're going to go to the end and have a look at putting the V's, all of these little V's. We're going to do the same thing at the end. It's really easy. It's just more or less exactly the same thing. Yeah, so let's go to the end of the pattern and do some more border stitches. So now reach the end of the row, and I'm just going to do a V to finish with. And as I do the V, I create a really nice V on the back. And you can see here, when I'm going to come to do my border stitch, I'm just going to pick up the V on the back as I come through to do my border stitch. Okay, you'll find the V just sitting there really neatly. You pick up both parts of that V and you come up to do your border stitch like that. Okay, so let's have a go at doing the V on the back. I find it easier to do the V at the end for some reason than I do at the beginning. So here I am, I've got one more stitch in my pattern, so I'm just going to do this final stitch of my pattern, which is a single crochet. And now I am ready now to go straight from my pattern into my border stitch. So I'm going to do the same thing. I hold around the back and I go straight through the center of the V. So this time I'm just going to push right through the middle, and I sort of stab my finger at the back, and I can tell if I've gone through the center because I can see it really easily here on the side of my hook. I've got the front part and the back part of the previous V, and once I'm there I just pull through, I come up through the center of that V, and this is my wiggle. We give it a wiggle to loosen it, relax it, so it's really easy. On the next row I come through again and then cut the yarn. And I'm not going to tie off because I want it loose so that if I need to make corrections, I can easily undo it. So cut my yarn, pull through, and I've got my nice V for my next row. You have to go straight through into, and on the back we have this nice V that we have created. Yeah, all these V's, they're just sitting there. It just needs a bit of practice, but I just think it's the easiest way to do a border stitch. Sometimes if you find that your stitch, your end has bubbled, you just give it a little tug to see the V. Sometimes you just feel like you can't see the V, but you just tug it and it just pops the V like that. Okay, so V on the front, V on the back. In the interest of fairness, we'll do one more final stitch. So what I'm going to do now is go straight through the middle of that V that we created on the previous row. I'm just going to go straight through the middle, and I can feel when I'm right. I sort of stab my finger around the back, but I can also see very clearly on the sides there that I've gone through, yeah, right through the middle of the stitch. And once I'm through the middle of the stitch, it just takes a bit of practice, and I know that I've gone through the middle. And then once I'm through the middle of that V, I just yarn over. I'm going to pull this so it sits with the others. So I'm just going to pull through the yarn right through the middle of the V there. So I've come through the middle of the V on the previous row. This is where I do my little wiggle to relax it a little bit. This helps enormously for the next row and also for when you're doing your border. So now I'm just going to yarn over and pull that through, and there you go. I've got my V for my next row. To finish, I just pull through and I cut my yarn, and there you go. V on the front, V on the back, and you've got this nice system waiting for you when you come to do your double border. Hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching.